All right. Welcome, everyone. First of all, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar, which is brought to you by itCraft, one of Europe's leading mobile app development companies. My name's Gareth Smith, and today's webinar is entitled Before You Quit Your Job to Create a Startup. So today is all about making sure your billion-dollar idea doesn't die before it begins, or more importantly, that it doesn't bankrupt you in the process. We're joined today by Karol, the CEO and co-founder of itCraft. He's also a business strategist and mobile startup expert. Welcome to the webinar today, Karol.
Hey, everyone. Welcome. Happy to be here.
And we also have Arek, a very highly experienced UX designer specializing in mobile app design, founder of his own startup and startup companies, formerly. Welcome to you also, Arek.
Hello, good to be here with you.
I see people hitting away at the chat feature. Welcome everyone to you. It's a very relaxed atmosphere today on the webinar, a bit like a friendly afternoon chat, but the topics which we cover are vitally important if you're thinking about launching into a new startup. Specifically, if your idea is software related and a web app or a mobile app. Today, you'll see we're going to cover the mobile app business, maybe some statistics. We're going to look at the current situation and the COVID-19 situation and how it's affecting the market. We want you to understand and know how to come up with your own value proposition. We want to talk about personas and why they're the face of your company and will continue to be. We're going to look at the difference between an MVP and a RAT. We want to look at how Airbnb started with its and how they validated their business idea. We want to give you the tools to be able to come up with your own RAT and how to validate your own ideas and what to do next. And we're going to talk to Karol and Arek, and I'll answer any questions you might have. So you'll see a questions field. If anyone has any questions, then feel free to put them in there. And at the end, we'll come across those questions. Look, before we dive deeper into value propositions and personas and how to validate your business idea, let's look at the facts about the mobile business. There's really, really good news if you have a good idea. In 2018, there were 205 billion apps downloaded worldwide. Now, that's a crazy figure when you consider how many people are on the earth. And in 2020, mobile apps are expected to generate $180 billion in revenue. And this is really great news. The average smartphone owner has 30 apps on his phone, and half of those users open an app more than 10 times a day. So if you have a really, really good idea, then it's really good news. There's really, really an opportunity to make a difference and to start your own startup and create something truly amazing. And this is what we want to talk about. But look, I want to start by telling you a story to begin with. 3 weeks ago, I was officially in quarantine because of being in contact with a potentially infected COVID-19 patient. And I bought an app. It was a collaborative shopping list app that allows multiple phone users to create one shopping list. And I paid €5 or €6 for this app. And my experience before spending any money on that app was truly excellent. There were no advertisements. There was no pressure for payment details or a lot of personal information. No pressure to upgrade the app to the premium version. Just simple distinctions in options between the free version and the paid version. But before I paid for the premium version, I downloaded 3 other shopping list apps, which brings me to my other point. On average, mobile apps are deleted less than 6 days after being downloaded. Now, the 3 shopping list apps that I downloaded, they lasted 30 seconds, maybe 2 minutes, because they didn't meet the need. They didn't do what I wanted it to do. To be honest, I felt really bad when I deleted each app, because I know and I understand how much time, how much effort, how much money goes into developing mobile apps. I really, truly felt sorry for the investors of those apps. I felt sorry for the people who had the idea to come up with this app, because it was an awesome idea, an awesome concept. But the difference between success and failure in this business can sometimes be as simple as a 5-minute brainstorming session with your team on the pain points of a shopper, for example. So, look, I'll be really honest with you. I wanted to call this webinar, Your Ideas Are Stupid. My marketing department told me that might be a little offensive and it might not attract too many viewers today. So then I suggested your ideas are stupid unless they're validated. Now, from a business point of view, this is a really true statement. An idea, if it's not validated, is simply just an idea. I have an idea. I want to be a billionaire, but it's just an idea. If I don't know how to get there, it's never going to happen. So I put this slide in here. It's a little bit of a joke. People like to eat, so I'll open a restaurant. Now, there are 7.7 billion people in the world who all eat food. So starting a restaurant sounds like a good way of making money. But the idea is stupid. You and I know that from what's written there, that the idea is stupid. And based on this concept, I'm either never going to open my restaurant or I'm going to go bankrupt. So a restaurant can be really like a lucrative business if you understand what kind of food people want to eat in your area, if they need delivery services, how much people spend on a meal, how often people dine out, what's the furthest people will drive to your restaurant, etc., etc. So ideas. This is what many people on the call today probably have ideas. Probably have a million. I'm a big believer that everyone has $1 million idea. There are some people who have $1 billion ideas, and in the startup world, $1 billion idea is called a unicorn. And there are people on this call today who may have $1 billion ideas, and the whole purpose of today is to go through step by step, what's the next thing to do if you've got that $1 billion idea. Now, I love my job. I get dozens of emails every week from amazing people who have amazing ideas. They want to take the courage to take the step and launch into a startup business, take the step towards financial freedom, and the next $1 billion business is just an idea away. Even if I get the email that says, I want to build a dating app, sometimes we think, not again. But if that idea is validated and it can be a successful business, then we want to be part of it. So all great business ideas started with just an idea. You may want to genuinely help your fellow man. You might want to be an expert in your field and you want to take advantage of that. You may see a hole in the market. You might have been lying in bed recently and couldn't sleep because you had that light bulb moment. Whatever it is, every great business came from an idea. And today we want to talk about how to take the next step with that idea so that it becomes a success and that you don't bankrupt yourself in the process. So very quickly, I'm going to bring Karol in shortly in a moment to speak about the current situation, but let's talk about the current market trends just for a minute. For the first time in my life, I saw a vending machine with face masks, disinfectant, and rubber gloves. For obvious reasons, this COVID-19 situation has affected most countries around the globe, and there are some countries which have started to ease restrictions, some which are continuing to tighten restrictions. Some countries, like Sweden, we've seen in the media, haven't had a lot of restrictions placed on them. But there's a lot of uncertainty at the moment in the business world. And what I think is quite clear, and world economists tend to agree, is that the global economy is expected to head into a recession in 2020, 2021, as this situation continues to affect our businesses. And for the first time ever, if you might have seen on the news, we saw a negative value for a barrel of oil last week, and because the demand's simply not there. But it's in these difficult times that the entrepreneurial juices start flowing. People identify holes in the market, new opportunities, business ideas are born. And we can see just by current market trends, we were analysing some data recently that for obvious reasons, there's a 700% increase in personal protective equipment. There's a 400% increase in the usage of telemedicine, and we expect to see that grow as people have seen the benefit of this. Even people can't go to the gym at the moment, so there's a 300% increase in the demand for gym equipment. So whatever the idea is that you might have, people taking advantage of the market conditions as they change. This is how people make money, but we need to validate our ideas. And I was talking to Karol recently. We'll bring you into the conversation, Karol. We was talking recently about an idea that came into your head to help people. Maybe we can have a look at this a bit further.
Yeah, let's. Hello, everyone, one more time. We will discuss the idea that I came up with. When we've been preparing that webinar, Gareth proposed another idea. So Uber for hairdresser, or a remote hairdresser, but who needs that? I don't know. So we will discuss other idea today. If you hit next. Okay, so my idea, I came up with this idea when the whole situation, COVID situation started. And of course, senior people are strongly affected by the situation. They are in risk of getting the coronavirus, and it's really problematic for them. They cannot go out. And Warsaw citizens started to help senior citizens. So somebody shared this poster. You can see two photos on the right, and the one on the left shows one of the posters where somebody put the information that, dear senior citizens, if you need any help, if you're afraid of going out, and if you need your medicines or groceries to be delivered to your home, please just call this number. And somebody signed that poster with, dear we are neighbors from apartment number 77. And people started to share that poster on social media. And then one of the Facebook users created one more page called Pomagamy Sobie. And you can see that they've polished the poster a little bit so that it will be more user-friendly. And I've also decided to print out the poster and put my phone number and name, the number of the apartment. And I've put that poster in the corridor of my block of flats, hoping that somebody from my neighbors will call me so that I can deliver some shopping for them. And I was really excited to do that. I was hoping that, probably lots of people will call me and I will be able to deliver groceries every day. But after one day and another day, nobody called me. But on the third day, actually a lady from the second floor, she called me and she asked me if I could help her with her groceries and if I could bring her medicine from the drugstore. I said to her, yeah, of course I can do that. And I did it right away. So I've noted down a list, shopping list. I went to the shop and I've delivered all the things to her apartment. And of course, when she opened the door, she was really cautious. She didn't want to have any contact. Yeah. So I've left the shopping and she thanked me that, she's really grateful that I could help her. And for me, it was a boost of energy. I was really excited about it. I thought this is something great. I can help someone in need. So later on, she called me one more time and one more time even. So I've helped her with her shopping already 3 times. Then I thought, maybe this is something good. Maybe we could come up with a portal or the application where people could post information that they are willing to help, and other people could post information that they are in need. And maybe even if the COVID situation will go down a little bit, that portal could later on be useful for people in need in general. So if anyone would need any assistance, someone could post a message on that portal, and the other people could pick up that request and help. We could help each other. So that's the idea that I would like to discuss a little bit further today.
So just to clarify, Karol, the idea was not a business-related idea at the beginning. It was an idea just to help people.
Yeah, that's correct. Right now, we are all in the situation where it's totally crazy. So it's probably there are people who are earning money because of this situation, but other people are just helping each other. So that's a pro bono idea, let's say, how we can help each other. And I saw that many other groups and companies are also trying to do some pro bono activities just to help each other, like
awesome.
Human do.
Okay, Arek, I want to bring you into the conversation.
Sure. So basically, thank you, Karol, for explanation of the COVID situation example. We will definitely use this in our UX techniques later on. So, but before of that, why actually it is important to use some kind of UX design techniques before actually going into implementation? Because and this is a fact according to many sources, majority of projects fail on early stage. So this is discouraging, of course, and also Gareth mentioned this in a mobile world. So in this report that I also linked here, there are some explanations why, or factors why a majority of startups fail. So of course, among the others, but they provided some kind of significant one. So one of the most significant is to let's say Karol explained the COVID example, and he could rush into development and rush into kind of creating some full portal. So this is not should be done like this because before rushing into actually a solution, we should first lean a little bit more on the problem space, let's say. So going into the solution straight away is a bad approach because you can end up with lack of product market fit. So it basically means that you will be in a situation when there will be no growth, no early adopters or users, and they will not feel your value proposition. And according to this data, also, the lack of the solid value proposition is the most significant factor why you will probably fail on your idea. So maybe if you can go to the next slide, maybe a few words also, what is actually the value proposition. So it is very straightforward concept, but from some reason, a lot of people lack to have one. So in general, this is a specific. This is some kind of bunch of specific benefits that your customer can expect from you, and you as a founder, you should be extremely kind of conscious about how you define your value proposition. So you should start thinking about what are your what problems you are trying to solve. What is the difference between you and your competitors? So what stuff you are doing better than others. The UX design is cool because it's providing some techniques to boost your chances on understanding that part. And one of the greatest and simplest technique is to create a canvas persona, a so-called persona canvas. So if you could go to the slide, and we can provide you this very simple COVID example here. So this is an empty canvas. And how we will structure the data here. So on the left side, before maybe that, so the general goal of the persona canvas is to create this kind of ideal, perfect customer or user that will visualize the problem you're trying to solve. So to do that, we can fill out the data, and on the left side you have the very basic information about that persona. So and you should keep that data as real, because also the goal of the persona is to create this empathy with your user. So when you're using this in further discussions or something, somebody should feel that this is some real stuff. And in our persona that we are using the COVID example, so we have some lady, Joanna, and one important information here is the quote. Look on the quote. So the current social distancing conditions have made it very difficult for me recently. So I need help buying my groceries a few days a week. So if somebody will look on your persona, he should remember this quote. So the quote is very important. And we can also, in addition, give some more details about the age, income, status. So some demographic data that should also be real, let's say, based on some data, but also try to remember that this should be relevant to the project, basically, because this is also not the goal to provide as much data as you can. Probably in this situation, we should also use something about, I don't know, is that person computer savvy or not? Because maybe the implementation should be like very easy, or even without the portal. So maybe some other implementation. But still, so we have this about persona information that will help us create this empathy with our user. Then we can go to the right sections that will help us define the proper value proposition. So we start from goals. So the main goals that persona have. So our Joanna is about getting groceries, staying home, and staying healthy. So in one sentence, what we are trying to answer here is what is in the heart of that person. So what is the basic motivation here? So then we can go to the problems. Yeah, and what you should see is a kind of a tension here. So, okay, we have the goals and motivations, but how that persona suffer, basically. So what she is not able to do. So she can go out and she can't, because it's dangerous, and she has some kind of a trust issue or something like that. So these are problems and pains. And from that, we should uncover basically the gain. So how we can make that Joanna happy. So our kind of value proposition here should be helping with the shoppings. So because of this, she will gain from our product or our services. So as you can see, this is a quite simple technique, but it's a very visual. You can use this to discuss with your friends, your family, or I don't know, even some kind of stakeholder maybe. So it's very collaborative. And we, of course, will provide this template, but you can also Google for some additional templates. But from my experience, the best one is to create your own template to kind of work with it, because some informations might not be relevant for your kind of for your goal. And of course, this is one of the techniques. So if we can go next slide, we can use even much broader canvases. So like, for instance, the value proposition canvas gives us also opportunity to like discuss a little bit more about the value proposition in a way that we uncover the products and services, some pain relievers. And as you can see on the right side, we have our customer segment, which is basically a persona. But before going to that, I think that on this step, when we define the persona, we can also think a little bit about how to verify that informations, how to actually find some minimal setup verification or a test to define if that information from the persona and the value proposition we are providing is good or not. So, and this, I believe, Karol can explain you more about the approaches and strategies, how you can actually verify your value proposition and knowledge from a persona.
That's right. Gareth, if you hear it.
Very quickly, actually, there's a question from Arek here about the MVP. We might leave that until actually Karol's talk about the MVP and the RAD. Arek's questions about people being afraid to put their ideas into practice, but we might cover that in a minute.
Yep.
But one question to you, Arek, about personas. Can you have more than one persona?
Okay. So
ideal customer, because the customer's value, of course.
Yeah, of course. There are different ways to do that, but of course, in the very beginning, when you are in this problem space, let's say, you might have many personas because there is many roles that might be many roles in the system. Like in the COVID example, there can be some persona about the person who is delivering the shoppings, maybe some doctor, I don't know. But about you can use many personas that are relevant to your kind of idea. But eventually, when going deeper into further into development, you should stick with, I don't know, 1, 2, because at the beginning, especially, you don't want to make too much effort in the value proposition. You just want to be very narrow in that. So you should on the beginning, you can have many personas on this ideation phase, but you should narrow it to some, your perfect ideal client. And it's also easier for communication.
Okay, and there's actually one more question that's just come in about the personas. Yeah. Pauline asked, what if I have this great idea but have problems to prepare the value proposition and I'm not sure who is the main persona? How are we trying to identify the main persona?
So it's probably in the kind of mind of person with idea, there should be some kind of notion of for whom is this product for. So I would start from that, defining the roles in the system, who will benefit from that, from the product. So maybe listing the people who can benefit, and then going into this exercise. Maybe this would be helpful, basically.
So there can be many personas per se, but Joanna is the ideal persona. Yes, this is what we're trying.
Yeah, I would say something like that. But of course, this is an example, and in real life scenario, we would also approach to somehow validate how many, like I said before, who will benefit from our solution. Yeah.
Okay. Karol, I want to bring you into the conversation again.
Okay.
We want to talk. When I first heard the term MVP, I thought of Michael Jordan because he was the most valuable player for the Bulls for so many years. But in the startup world, the MVP is actually stands for minimum viable product. Can you tell us a little bit more about this concept?
Sure. MVP is a well-known technique or method for validating startup ideas, and so probably you've heard about that, but I will just give you a brief introduction. What is it? So on the screen you see the black coffee and the cappuccino. In the coffee world, we can say that the black coffee is a MVP version of the coffee. What does it mean? That it means that it delivers the core value that the users are looking for. Why people are drinking coffee? Sometimes I think about it. Why people are drinking coffee instead of, I don't know, other type of plant, fruits? Why they choose coffee? Probably because of a boost energy that coffee gives, and also probably of a good taste. People can taste different flavors in different coffees. So this is why people choose that. And first, people invented coffee, the black one, and later on they started to upgrade it, adding white cream or sugar or anything like this. But why is it so important to understand that the black coffee is a MVP version of the coffee? So 35% of people are drinking black simple coffee without sugar. What does it mean? It means that 1/3 or even more than 1/3 of your customer base are only looking for MVP features of your drink, of your beverage. So even if when you open a cafe, and even if you're running out of milk, you still will have 1/3 of your revenue, because 1/3 of people that will come to your cafe will be asking you about a simple black coffee. And this is really important, because when you are creating a startup, sometimes founders are thinking about the end vision of the product, and this is something that is not letting them to do a first step, because when they go to a software house or any other product, ask about the price of the final product, they receive that it will cost them $3 billion or $3 million of dollars to build another Uber, for example. So this is really problematic, and founders of the startups needs to understand that the core features is something that your users will be looking for. If you hit next.
Okay. Just very quickly, Arkadiusz's question about the MVP is that people are sometimes too afraid to put their ideas into practice. Even how do we encourage them to use the MVP? I assume, just for technical sake, that's not a cappuccino, Karol. I think that's a latte macchiato. But
you're in that 5% of people drinking latte macchiato, probably.
Exactly. So how to put this into practice? Why people are afraid, yes, of investing lots of money. So I assume we talk about the lean startup quite often, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Is this a way of being able to reduce the risk and the fear of launching into a new business?
Yeah, that's correct. That's basically the lean approach, and maybe I can explain that a little bit more on the second slide. So there's a book by Arek, The Lean Startup. It's called The Lean Startup, and Arek shows that approach a little bit more in the book. So he's describing the MVP, and he's also describing the idea to save resources, so not to overspend on something that people won't use. So if you look at from that perspective, it's really important for you not to create some feature that won't be needed by your users. So because you will just waste the resources. And one of my friends described this book that it's not only about how to build a startup without money, but it's also about how to build a startup with transferring the responsibility for the quality of the product to the end user. Because imagine if you would go to the cafe and they would tell you, we only have a black coffee today. Yeah. So, but looking from a business model perspective, that could work. Still, 1/3 of the users would actually sit down at your cafe and drink that black coffee. Yeah. So you don't have to worry about the quality of your product. You have to worry about if it has a market fit. Yeah. So if market really wants your product, yeah, or at least if there is 30% of users that wants your product. So, and the lean startup approach also shows you how to upgrade your product. So at the beginning, you can start with the skateboard, actually, to later on to expand it to the scooter, bike, motorbike, and car, because both skateboard and car solve the problem of transportation from point A to B. Yeah, so the core feature of skateboard and car is the same: transportation from point A to B. So you don't have to create a car. At the beginning, you can start with your skateboard. Of course, that analogy is a little tricky because because the car industry is already well saturated. So the value proposition of a new car should be something different. But it just shows you can visualize, yeah, it on the diagram that both skateboard and car has wheels. Yeah, this is what users are looking for.
I guess it's important to just mention that it's the market that then dictates where you pivot and how you pivot your product. Yes. So, for example, if I consider the face masks in the vending machine, someone pivoted their market, their product to cover what the market dictated that they wanted. Yes.
That's correct. So, you already have the vending machine, you have a payment gateway, you have the machine which is giving you the product. You just switch the product and voila, you have a startup. Yeah. So that's pretty awesome. Okay. Hit next. Okay. So there's another concept called RAT. I really like it because it's really smart. And RAT stands for riskiest assumption test. So it's some kind of test about your assumption that you have for your startup. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to create your final product, or even that MVP version of the product. You're just testing your assumption, your business assumption that you have put it in your business model canvas. And you need to test those assumptions that have the highest impact or biggest impact on your success. Okay, next. So how Airbnb did that? How they validated their riskiest assumption? That's a nice story. Founders of Airbnb started their business in 2007, 2008. So that was a time when we had previous crisis, financial crisis, and they went up to 20 different venture capitalists and private equities, and they tried to pitch their idea to, they will create a portal on which people will be able to share their spare bedrooms or the air beds that they have at their homes, and they will be able to those people will be able to get money for that. That's a crazy idea. All the venture capitalists said, no way. We won't invest in that idea because nobody will give you money for nobody will pay for sleeping on an airbed in your spare room. That's a crazy idea. Yeah. But actually, the guys said, oh, we need to test that. If you say that assumption is wrong, we will test that. And they've created a really simple landing page called airbedandbreakfast.com. And on that landing page, they posted their offer to sell their airbed for one night for $80. And actually, they found 3 customers who were willing to pay $80 for sleeping on an airbed. Crazy, but it works. And after that test, venture capitalists said, okay, if people really need that, we will invest in that, and we will grow your startup. And we all know the story about Airbnb. Now it's competing with the biggest players, Booking.com and other portals. So it's something totally different right now, because you can, other service. This is other service, but they've started with the idea that I've told you about. Next. So why RAT is so good? First of all, because of what Arek told you about, 90 or 95% of startups fails because of your wrong assumption, this is one of the reasons that before you will build something, you should test the assumption, your business assumption that you have. Of course, also you're reducing financial investment in the resources and also your time. Probably with your idea, you would be able to convince your uncle to give you $100,000 to build your startup, but with your crazy idea, but you've only convinced your uncle, and probably your assumption was wrong and you failed. So you're really reducing financial investment using RAT. And the last one is that actually you only need a product team, so creative team who can do it. You can do it yourself with your team, with your startup team. You don't have to hire anyone. You don't have to pay for anything. You can test your assumption by your own. Next. Okay, and how to identify the RAT? This is sometimes problematic, and Business Model Incorporation came up with this canvas idea. So they've just wanted to let you visualize how you should tackle that problem to identify the RAT. So if you have a Jenga pile, you put your assumptions on the top, or in the same way that you you make your Jenga tower. And if there is any assumption that has a low impact, or that assumption is already validated because you've tested it and you have some proof that, yeah, it is validated, it really works, you put that assumption on the top, and you do it with every piece of your Jenga tower. And by doing that, at the end, you will end up with only one risky assumption on the bottom of the tower. So, if that assumption is wrong, your whole tower will fail, yeah, and your whole startup will fail. Next. So about the grocery delivery service. So how to identify candidates for risky assumption? I came up with 3 ideas. Probably if we would brainstorm a little bit more with the team, with your product team, you would come up with other ideas as well. And like I explained on the previous slide, let's take a look at each idea, and let's try to think if it's a low impact assumption or a high impact assumption, or is it validated or not. So for the groceries delivery service, are there many people willing to help to deliver groceries for free? Definitely it has a high impact, because if there is no people doing delivery for free, you cannot provide your service. So your startup will fail. But is it already validated? I'm pretty sure that yes. People using that Facebook fan page already validated that assumption is correct. I can find lots of people who are willing to deliver groceries for free. People started to share that information without any hesitation. So yeah, that works. What about the second one? Can we reach senior citizens in our neighborhood? That's a problem. How to reach them actually. So definitely also a high impact assumption, because if there's no demand, there's no startup, there's no service. So how we can do that? I think that the test to test that assumption would be to maybe go out and ask media groups, radios, etc., because senior citizens are listening to this kind of media. So they are watching TV, they are listening to the radio. So if I would be able to reach out to media managers, let's say, then, and if they would be willing to spread that information about this service, that could work. And I can tell you that it's somehow also already validated, because in the news, I've heard in the radio, in the local radio, I've heard something about that if you're a volunteer and if you would like to help senior citizens, please contact us here. And if you're a senior citizen, please contact us here. We will be able to help you. So what about the third one? Are senior citizens willing to use internet, mobile, web app? That's the hard one, right? Because senior citizens, senior people will probably won't use your mobile app or web app. So what could be the solution for that assumption? How to test it if I can still reach them? I came up with the idea, maybe we should reach out to their children or relatives instead of senior people, yeah? So if I could do that, maybe I could create a simple landing page and a Facebook ad saying, if your parent is in need and you cannot travel to them to help them, please contact us here, and the phone number, yeah? If I would gather few people that are that have this problem, probably that could work. And of course, you can come up with the other ones, the other assumptions, and one by one, you should validate or assess if it's a low risk, high risk assumption, and by resolving each one, you will gather more information about your whole idea. Next. And what are the tools to create a rat, run a rat? And this is a nice part, because you don't have to create anything. You don't have to build anything. You just open your Facebook or, I don't know, Instagram or any other social media, and you just test your idea. You're posting the messages, or you're asking your friends. Maybe you like to run some user research. Maybe you will create some simple landing page with existing tools without any programming skills. Maybe you would like to run a campaign just to test if your landing page really works. So you're using all existing off-the-shelf solutions just to test your business assumption. It's all about business right now. It's all about market need. It's not about perfect product, perfect UX and perfect UI. You just need to test your business assumption that you have. Okay, next. And finally, if you're running your test, you should definitely remember to note down all the metrics, all the things that something that will prove that, okay, my assumption is validated. So in our grocery delivery service, if my how I can tell if I'm successful? Probably if I delivered groceries this week, and how many groceries deliveries I did this week. I should note down it, yeah? If I was able to deliver 5 grocery deliveries this week, and 7 next week, and 13 next week, that's probably means that, okay, my assumptions are okay. I'm able, with the tools that I've set, I'm able to grow my service, yeah? So, or you can note down also how many people I was able to reach. Even if you reach only 10 people, but everyone is saying that, oh, it is so good, we really need that. If you get good feedback on about the service that you provide, that maybe doesn't yet mean that you should spend that $100,000 that your uncle is proposing you, because maybe that's not yet, the whole idea is not maybe yet validated. But if you see the growth, if you see that you're delivering value for the users, that could be a hint for you that, okay, you're going in the right direction. Otherwise, if you're not delivered any grocery delivery this week, probably you've saved your uncle $100,000. Yeah, so that's also good. Okay.
Karol, I'm surprised no one's put the question in, what is Karol's uncle's phone number? Because if you have 100,000 spare, I've got a couple of ideas myself, so we can talk after that.
If you come up with the rat, with your metrics about the rat, I will give you a call to my uncle.
All right, so let's summarize what we've spoken about, because there's three real next steps that people can take, yes, with their idea. First, as Arek covered, is to come up with the persona. It's something that people can do, that people can brainstorm with their friends, their family, their business partners, is to come up with a persona for your idea. So who is the ideal customer? Yes, and by using the persona canvas, we're able to start to validate an idea. Yes, we've got some ideal customer that we're trying to perform a service for. So as part of that is you come up with your value proposition. So complete your value proposition canvas. We're able to do this. One question, maybe Arek, if you could answer one more summary, I guess, about the persona, and maybe just summarize for everyone exactly what the persona is again, just so that people know what they can do with their ideas.
Yeah, I think that the confusion here is between what is the persona and how it go to the value proposition. So I would rather treat persona as a kind of exercise to understand your problems you are trying to solve. So this is kind of an exercise, and a value proposition is a statement. So, okay, so I managed to do the research. I talked with some people, and I think that these are the main goals, the problems, and then the gains. So the gains and the value proposition is kind of, okay, the final statement. So after your kind of learning phase, you learn about the problems, and you know that this is something solid. You know that there is an issue, and the value proposition is just one statement that is kind of in the end of this learning phase, you know. So like in our example, the groceries was the final statement that this is our value proposition, and we are solving this and this problems. So this is, in that way, it is connected.
Okay, and in your experience, Arek, are you able, and maybe Karol as well, are you, does the idea change from the original idea when you do these the persona and the value proposition canvas? Does the idea of the business change very often?
From my perspective, it's like I said, it's a way to learn, and during the learning, you are very often pivoting in your ideas and changing slightly because you are kind of more aware of the whole context. So I had many kind of examples where this actually changed from the origin, like the problem changed, and then of course the solution also changed at the beginning.
So you shouldn't be too stubborn in your idea.
No, I think it's this is the phase of like product discovery or product ideation. So you should give yourself some kind of a space to that you're not sure about the final solution. Otherwise, you might stuck, and that is why 95% of startups fail, because they stuck on the origin idea. They don't learn, so they don't validate.
Maybe I will add something to that. I recently spoke with one guy who's targeting actually our businesses, so software houses, and he told me that they've pivoted their business 3 times already. And that's also a good strategy because, first of all, you have to be dedicated to act not only for the first during the first month, but also the second month, third month, first year, second year, third year, and so on. So that's the first thing. And if you narrow down the target to, for example, software houses, or I don't know, digital agencies, or marketing agencies, after first year, you will understand, I don't know, 10 times more about this market than compared to what you know about them at the beginning. The second thing is that you're building up relationship with those people. And you really, if you're really focusing on delivering value, you cannot be stubborn about your initial idea. You need to pivot to adjust to what market is expecting from you, actually. Yeah. So this is definitely a good idea to pivot your startup if you see that some other idea has a bigger potential compared to your initial ones. And the startup pivoting is a definitely other topic. We could have another webinar about that.
Okay, nice one. And actually, there was a question that came in from Patricia about young people. Do you think young people are less likely to convince investors using MVP and RAT? What do you want to say about that, Karol? Does age have anything to do with it? I mean, in trying to convince an investor?
Yeah, there are two things. Yeah, first of all, why so many young people are getting funds from venture capitals and private equities? It's because young is brave. You're not afraid of anything. You're not losing anything if you fail, and that's the first thing. To answer the other question about the MVP versus RAT, I would say it's more important for you to convince the investor that your business idea really works, and you can do that by presenting them the metrics that you gathered. And it actually doesn't matter if you already built your product and spent $100,000 and you've gathered 300 users. It doesn't matter. What matters is to have a proven product market fit. Yeah. So if you're able to somehow prove that, please look at those numbers. We've been working on that 3 months. We have this RAT here, and it grew up to 100 users without building any software. That's probably enough for the investor. Yeah. So investor is looking from the business perspective. Numbers, growth, user traction. That's all. That's all they need. They don't care about your software actually.
Yeah, and very often investors ask you how many times you failed before, because it means that you learned something and you're keep doing that. So this is also kind of example of your attitude. So I would say that they have some kind of allow for this. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to start to wind up. So I guess, look, the coming up with the persona, the value proposition, testing your riskiest assumption. These are all things that can be done for very, very minimal investment, and actually start to validate whether your idea is actually good or not. And Arek and Karol have actually offered themselves to help. If anyone on the call has some ideas that they want to help start to validate, then you can drop us a line at the webinar at itcraftapps.com. We're here to help because we want to see the next $1 billion idea come to fruition and not die. So let's take the next steps. So, look, we might leave it there if there's no more questions. But this was our very first webinar at itCraft, and one of many, hopefully, to come. Thanks everyone for joining us. We're right on the 1 hour, so it's probably a good time to finish. Karol, thank you for your time.
Thank you everyone for joining. It was a pleasure to be here.
Expertise.
You're muted.
I'll make these tools available to everyone.
Yeah, thank you for webinar questions.
Thank you everyone. See you next week maybe. Bye.